Dougie, thank you very much for joining me on the show. What a fantastic way to end the year. Obviously, this will come out in 2026, but yeah, I'm absolutely buzzing to do this, man.
Yeah, no, thank you, man. It's good to be here, and yeah, the last day before the Christmas holidays, and running this through. I think it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So we've got some wicked topics to talk through today, but as I always do, for people that may or may not know who you are, what you do, etc., just give us a bit of an intro.
Yeah, sure. So Dougie Loan, depending on where you come from. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer at SourceWhale. So we are a recruitment productivity platform. We work with thousands of recruitment agencies across the globe. My role here is really mixed. So I look after all of our commercial teams. So everything from our SDRs through to our sales team, customer success, account management, marketing, and internal talent acquisition. So essentially, go-to-market is my role, and my job is to make sure that the amazing products that we build are used by more and more recruiters, basically every single day.
Yeah, nice. Do you remember the first time I ever met you?
Do I remember the first time I ever met you?
I'll be very surprised if you do.
Were you working at a recruitment agency and we were training you on how to use Audro? Or were we pitching you Audro, maybe? Yeah?
So probably won't, because first time I met you, you were shit-faced.
Oh, excellent. Okay. What a great way to start this podcast.
I say to people, we like to have a laugh on this show.
So when was this then? This must have been a number of years ago.
Oh, it was like 2016.
Okay.
Yeah, or early 2017. I think we were using iIntro at the time, and we saw you at one of the Pirates parties.
The awards ceremony. Yeah, no, I remember this. And I think it was trying to convince you to switch to Audro after a few beers.
Yeah, and my manager was like, go on, give us your best pitch. And bless you, you were like, right, the problem is with this, let me tell you about this is the benefits. And I was like, I like this guy.
You've always got to be selling, mate. That's
100%.
It. Take every opportunity you can
100%.
get. I probably tried to cold call you guys many times. I wasn't getting anywhere. So if you were right in front of me, I was always going to take my shot.
100%. Dude, 100%.
Love that. What a story. What a memory.
Just on that as well, actually, because like I haven't used Audro as a recruiter, but like I've worked with recruitment agencies that use Audro. I used iIntro initially, had really good training with James, used Interview. Yep. I found that those video platforms were just incredible when it came to like selling retainers and stuff like that. But I don't know whether this is just me, but like I haven't really seen that kind of market like do a lot recently, or like it seems to be a little bit quieter. Like what's the situation with that?
So I think the interesting thing is like sometimes people forget that actually a lot of the success of these video platforms is actually pre-COVID. So many people say to me like, oh, Audro is a really successful business. Like the pandemic must have been amazing for you guys because everyone moved online and everything else. Actually, I think that the pandemic and the wide scale adoption of things like Teams and Zoom was probably a big detriment to that type of approach. Because if you think pre-2020, the concept of like interviewing people online was very low. The biggest competitors that these types of companies on Audro, Interview and iIntro had, aside from each other, was like Skype. That was the platform, right? So people weren't really using that. And a lot of the interview process involved people having to take time out of their day to meet people in person and go through it, and it wasn't ideal. So what the video kind of shortlisting element was doing when people were selling retainers was allowing them to cut down on that, but also get an insight to the candidates earlier. And the recruitment agency won on that because they could pitch the candidates who maybe weren't as good on paper. And there. So I think post 2020, 2021, hiring managers were more likely to be like, hey, don't worry about that, I'll just meet them online for 20 minutes, 30 minutes or whatever and suss it out from there. So the barrier to actually screening and assessing that candidate became much less, which meant that a kind of 8 to 10 minute video wasn't as required. However, I have seen actually over the last 12 months a bit more of a resurgence in that, maybe more so on like the concept of what we at Audro called solo interviews, but what other people maybe called like one-way or asynchronous interviews. The idea where a candidate answers 3 to 5 questions on a short video. And I think that's predominantly driven by the fact that there's many candidates on the market. Yeah. So as a candidate or as a hiring manager now, I obviously want to get through that volume. And as a candidate, I want to be able to kind of like stand out in a different way. So yeah, you absolutely called it. I think post-COVID, where there was success in that industry, was very much on those like video messages for like business development. Yeah. So you recording a message to sell to your client.
Because honestly, when I've said this before on the pod and to companies that I work with, and whenever I do like a diagnostic and say, okay, cool, so you want the guys to sell more retainers, what does your retainer search look like? Oh, well, it's just a quarter of a fee up front. I'm like, well, what do you actually offer for that? Like when I had Interview and iIntro and stuff, I loved it because it was something to sell on top of finding candidates, if that makes sense. So
yeah, totally. And I think on the retainer, maybe we're getting too early into like tactics and everything else, but on the retain piece, and listen, everybody's got a different way of doing this, and that's totally cool. A way that we found working really, really well, whether it was videos you're offering or anything else, was this concept of like a deposit. So when we talk to clients and we were training those clients on how to sell using video, it was never a third up front, a third, like that traditional retainer method. It was more a case of like, hey, if the fees 10 grand, well, you know, you pay us £1,000 now, you pay us the other 9,000 on completion, and really it's a deposit to kind of allow us to go out there and do this work on your behalf ahead of the work. And that was a really easy transition, or a much easier transition for a fully contingent recruiter to make into more of a kind of committed model.
I loved the whole deposit thing. I tell this story whenever I do like trainee academies or like BD training. That was a little bit of a scoundrel, to be honest. Like, I had great relationships with clients, and I'll never forget there was this lady called Maxine who was South African for a Swiss infusion company. My dad's mum is coloured South African, so I'm only cool. I don't know any of them family. I've mentioned it in the call. She was like, "You've got to go to Cape Town, Charles. You've got to go." And I was like, "Yeah, I am. Super South African. Cool. Let's build the relationship." Took on a few jobs, and then I realised I was like 1,200 below their sales target, or whatever it was, the threshold. I just called her up and I was like, "You know that role that's going to be signed off in 6 months? Why don't we just get started?" She was like, "There's no point. We'll wait 6 months." I was like, "Can I just be really honest? Like, I literally need £1,000 to hit my sales target. If I can invoice you for that now, I'll get my promotion." And she was just like, "No worries, darling, no worries. Send me the invoice."
Amazing. That is incredible. So that was the motivator for you to sell a retainer, basically, in that scenario. Did you get the promotion?
Yes.
Yeah.
We filled all those roles. It was great. Like, she loved me. We did a good job for them. But the only reason why I say that is because for some recruiters, when it comes to like the retainers and stuff, I was like, you can know all the tactics and, you know, the way to sell the product, all the rest of it. But if you don't ask, you don't get.
Yeah, exactly.
And sometimes, like, the people that are cheeky, like the story we said at the start when we first met you, and you were cheeky trying to sell us Odro when we were working with our intro. You got to do that. Like, and I see so many recruiters now that like, oh, they're not hiring for 6 months, and it's like, cool, well, just ask questions, man. It's not rocket science.
I think there's a fear of getting rejected. I actually think like social media in general is like one of the reasons why people love like I'm only 31. Sorry, I'll be 32 next year, and I feel like if I look at people of a similar age to me, or people who are maybe slightly younger than me, like we've all grown up with this idea of like Instagram and Facebook, and now, I mean, I don't have TikTok, but I know TikTok's like super out there now, and so people are always worried about being judged by others consistently, and I think more so than ever before. And I think there's this like inherent fear of asking a question where the answer might be no, because then you worry about, well, what does that person think of me, and how will I then be perceived? But honestly, like there's a saying in Scotland which is that a shy boy gets no sweeties. So you've got to ask if you want if you want the outcome. And I think that's, whether that's recruitment, whether that's sales, whether it's customer success, whether it's anything, like the worst case scenario is someone says no, and then you're in the same position you were in 2 minutes ago.
100%. That's a wicked quote. I'm going to steal that. There was one I got from Nitin last October at the Recruitment Agency Expo, where I just went around to every stand and asked people, how can people get 1% better in recruitment? And something he said that really stuck with me, said, you could be the sweetest peach on the tree, but not everyone likes peaches. And that was it.
That's a very good point.
That was it. And that's something that I've realised, like my first year of running my coaching business, that people said, forget about this, that, and the other. People will just buy into you, and you're going to go into some offices, and they're just going to hate your energy. They're just going to hate the way you are, and that's absolutely fine.
That's human nature, though.
Exactly, but this is what my point is. A lot of recruiters, they feel like they've got to put on this facade and be liked by everyone. And I see it, dude, in training all the time. I see it. And I'll be sat there talking to them, and I'm like, so what do you do on the weekend? Watch the UFC? Oh, yeah, me too. Right, we're going to do a role play. And they go, Dougie, hello, my name is Charles. I'm like, whoa, what are you doing? I get having a sales voice. I get having, a bit of professionalism and stuff, but you changed your entire personality because you feel like you have to do that so everyone likes you. I'm not saying be a wide boy from wherever. Like, you have to have some sort of professionalism, but I've realised that, look, if you don't like me, you don't like me.
Hey guys, quick one before we jump back into the episode. If you are a recruiter who feels like half your week disappears into admin, follow-ups, data cleaning, and jumping between several different tools, then listen up, because this episode is officially sponsored by SourceWhale. SourceWhale is the recruitment productivity platform, and I don't just mean another tool that you'll forget to use. I mean the tool that actually gives you your time back. You can run your entire desk in one place. Outreach, sourcing, data enrichment, multi-step email and LinkedIn sequences inbox management, and even call notes. It's all there, synced, automated, and according to their stats, recruiters using SourceWhale see 56% higher response rates, double the pipeline, and approximately save around 8 hours of admin every single week. If you're like me, admin as a recruiter is the devil, and this productivity platform really helps you save a load of time. So reach out to SourceWhale, go to sourcewhale.com. It's a fantastic platform. I've used it myself. I really believe in it, and I'm super grateful for them sponsoring the podcast. Let's get back into the episode.
Totally. I think one of the things, so Ryan, who's was the CEO at Audro, obviously I worked really closely with him from like 2016, like 2015, 2016 when I joined the company, and obviously sadly passed away last year. But one of the things that he talked about very early on was like the idea of authenticity. And I think the word authenticity gets banded around a lot now, and it's like, but what does it actually mean? Like be yourself, everything else. And it's like a Japanese proverb around like the three masks, and it talks about the fact that like every human being has like three masks. One is the one that you show to the outer world. The second is the one that you show to like your close friends and family. And the third is the only one that like you truly reveal to yourself, and it's like how you really feel. And the saying is basically, I'm probably going to hack this up here, but it's like the more closely aligned those three masks are, the happier that you'll be as an individual, and the more authentic that you'll then be. And I think it goes back to that point, is like if that second one, which is how you are with your friends and family, is more close to the third one, which is the first one, sorry, which is the one that you show to the outer world, then you're going to be, you can focus more on what you're actually doing versus focusing on how you're trying to be perceived.
100%.
I think it makes
that is a way more professional and better and less crass way in comparison to what the co-founder of NLP told us at the end of our course, which is hilarious. And when we were recording video footage for Milo, both my business partners behind the camera just kind of looked over the camera and went, the fuck did you just say? It sounds mental, right? But we met one of the co-founders of Neuro-Linguistic Programming, and one of the guys in the cohort said, Frank, how do I truly be my authentic self? And he's an ex-Vietnam veteran who founded NLP, he's a bit of a nutter, lives out in Ukraine right now. And I'm not going to do the American accent because it sounds ridiculous, but he said there's no such thing as your true authentic self. He said if everyone in this room wants to be their true authentic self, then we're going to do an exercise right now. And the facilitator, Ricky, who's been on the pod, just went like this, oh fuck's sake, Frank, no, like that. And he went, right, so everyone take all your clothes off, piss your pants, shit your pants, lay on the floor and start crying. And everyone just looked at each other and went, is he fucking serious? Because that's the only time you're truly authentic. Wow. It's the day you're born, and then the day you die. That's the two times you're truly authentic. And then he went, when I'm in the bar with all the expats in Ukraine and the waitress comes along to give us the wings and the beers whilst we're watching the football or soccer, as he called it, I'm not the same person as what I am with my family and my children. When I'm with you guys, I'm not the same as what I am with my children, right? So similar to what you said in a much less crass way, there's three different versions of yourself. Totally. So it's really interesting.
I think what you're saying is right, man. I think like the reality of it is like the more closely aligned those people are, the happier that you can be, and the less of a facade or an act that you have to put on for sure.
100%. So tell us a little bit about the journey in the last year then with SourceWhale, because I've used SourceWhale myself since I got into L&D, and back then I knew it to be pretty much purely like an email automation tool, right? And people probably don't know, but you helped me out when I first set my business up with a license for the first year of my business, and I'll be honest, I used it, but it was mainly for emails, right? And for what I do, emailing recruitment founders with no case studies, testimonials, I was like, the fuck am I doing? It's not great. And then I had Emily on the podcast, who was one of the #1 episodes on the podcast so far, so shout out to her. And bless her, man. She's what a fucking spokesperson, by the way. She's incredible. When she was talking through how she uses it, and she was the first person I followed on TikTok when I set my TikTok up for the podcast. And she talked through like the functionalities on how to use it properly. And I was like, oh, okay. So when I go into businesses and like before the sponsorship, and I mentioned this to you, so many companies like, oh, what do you think of SourceWhale? I'm like, it's great. You just need to know how to use it. If you're just setting up an automated email campaign with next to no personalization, clicking that and that should be the strategy, you're fucked, right? So you hear a lot of people, oh, we're moving away from SourceWhale. No one wants to get on the phone anymore. I'm like, you guys just ain't using it right. But you guys have gone through a bloody journey in the last year, and obviously with this new product launch, etc. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. I think we just go back to actually the very start of the company. So, the company was founded 2020, and Tim and Harry founded the business because they wanted to do outreach to candidates and clients. And there's a massive backstory around the fact that the business was actually a recruitment agency to begin with.
Really?
And Harry built the technology, who's our CTO, to help Tim, who's our CEO, do more effective outreach to developers. And then Tim will admit himself that the people were more interested in that technology than they were in the recruitment offering. So after a few months, they flipped to the tech platform. The challenge is that the platform has always been multi-channel. So from the very beginning, the product has always been email, phone, LinkedIn, SMS, WhatsApp, all that kind of stuff. It's always been focused on a multi-touch, multi-channel approach. Challenge is that when people were purchasing the product, especially kind of post-COVID when things were in the heyday, they realised that, hey, you don't actually have to do the phone call to get a response. So what happened was they bought this technology that was super powerful and they would get it and they'd be like, right, okay, I want to do calls, I want to do everything else. But then they realised that there was so many jobs out there, all they needed to do was get a candidate, and if they sent 1,000 emails out, enough candidates would come back that they could make placements, and that's super easy, especially because the product was very good at making sure that the follow-ups were always being done. Fine. Fast forward to 2022. Market starts to dry out a little bit. 2023, it's really, really tough. People are starting to say, hey, we don't need candidates, we need jobs. So what do? This has nothing to do with SourceWhale. What they do as a business, predominantly, is they say, well, let's take what we're doing from our candidate perspective and apply that to our business development strategy. In fact, I'm looking around my office and I've probably got, as a recruitment agency owner, 80% of these people in here have never had to do business development because they only started during the heydays. So everyone just starts sending emails and more emails and more emails and more emails and more emails. And technology aside, that's not a strong business development strategy. It doesn't matter in what type of market you're in, just sending emails is not a great way of winning business. And that was a real challenge for people because actually they had this really powerful technology at their fingertips, but their process and their approach to implementing that technology, whether it was us or any other platform, was wrong, it was incorrect, and they started to pay the price for it. So to your point, the comment of SourceWhale makes my recruiters lazy, or maybe they don't use the phone or whatever, that's not a SourceWhale problem, that's an internal culture problem within businesses. And we're really lucky that we partner with thousands of agencies, and many of them do understand the power of having to do multi-touch, multi-channel approaches, and that if you're multi-touch, multi-channel, you also need to be quality and quantity driven. It can't just be one or the other. You need to balance those four things out. So we worked with agencies a lot over that couple of year period to help them understand that. And we can talk more later about how the infrastructure within a company makes a huge difference to how you get most out of AI. But then we realised that business development in particular takes a lot of time, takes a lot of effort. How can we give more people time back in their day so that they can spend time on business development and use the outreach module? So we looked at the entire recruitment journey, the entire recruitment process, and we're like, okay, there's lots of places here where there's inefficiencies. There's lots of places here where people are spending time, and we sat down with hundreds of our customers in terms of users, and we mapped out what their day looked like. And then we started to build what we called modules, or new parts of the product that people could buy if they wanted. It was optional, each of these things, that they could then plug in. So we went from just having this outreach product, which had a data element to it, where you could find people's phone numbers and email addresses so that you could reach out to them, to then adding on our dialer or conversations app, which allowed people to make phone calls, have them automatically recorded, transcribed and summarised and pushed into their CRM. So that was saving them around half an hour a day. Then we went to data refresh, which was, my CRM is predominantly outdated and I don't have enough information in there for people. So I don't want to be spending time doing that every day. So we are automatically updating that for people in the background. If we spot a job mover or a change of email address or a change of phone number, you log in and you're like, oh, this is awesome. I've got that information there. I don't need to fill it in. And then we moved super quickly after that. AI note taker, video interviews, all of that is now transcribed, summarized and pushed in. Then we moved on to things like inbox agents. So question for you is, how long would you say a normal recruiter spends in their inbox every day?
How long is a piece of string? A long time, I'd say.
Yeah. On average, around 3 hours a day is spent in the inbox. That was from the survey that we did of obviously the customers that we were speaking to. They're spending on average around 3 hours a day, and predominantly a lot of that was dealing with like general kind of queries and inquiries from candidates. So the inbox agent was a great one for us because it's a super cheap and effective way for them to have every email that comes into their inbox scanned and a draft is written in their tone, because we scan all of the previous emails and we answer it like that. And they all they have to do now when they go to the inbox is review and approve and send the email that we've already written on their behalf. And then we started tying them all together. So we have this meeting today, and you email me later and say, what was that story you told me again about the masks? And the SourceWhale is able to go and review that recording, come back and pre-draft that meeting for me. And there's loads more. There's sourcing, there's everything else. So the product has expanded a lot, and it's been it's been the best year that the business has ever had, and we have had, every year of this company has been phenomenal year-on-year growth. We are the 4th fastest growing company in Europe, according to the Financial Times, Deloitte. 4th fastest growing tech company in the UK, according to Deloitte, and the 18th fastest tech company in Europe, according to the Financial Times. And a lot of that is driven by the team, but also the product and the work that's been done there. So yeah, it's been a pretty mad year.
Yeah. I get asked quite a lot by people who listen to the podcast what I do and how I can help them. So just to give you a bit of an intro, I work with anything from trainee to founder and everything in between within the recruitment space, and offer coaching and training services. So if it's business development, mindset, confidence, if it's even the advanced thing like the NLP hypnotic language patterns to help influence get higher terms, selling RPOs, retainers, all those types of things, and everything I do around the coaching basis is very, very practical. It's not just theory. I work one-to-one with people. I work with large recruitment teams. A lot of what I do is on site. A lot of what I can do can be remote as well. I've worked with businesses all over the world since doing my own business. So if you are interested in getting 1% better and want to work with someone that can help you on that basis, and there's a clear ROI, I've worked with people that have 10x their ROI working with me in just 3 months. So if you are interested, all my details are in the description of this, and of course on LinkedIn. So drop us a message and let's work together.
Yeah, absolutely. And I went to your product launch, and there was like a few rumors in the background about what you guys were doing. Yeah. And when I saw like the presentation of like the CRM and stuff and how everything interlinks, I was like, that's a no-brainer.
Well, mate, you're right on what you're saying there, right? So we've got this concept of like the vision for the business is like we already have it. Is this like we want to be the recruiter's second brain? Like we want to be able to have that. We want to be able to take all of the context and all of the memory of all of the interactions that a recruiter as an individual ever has, and then use that information on their behalf. You think of a lot of good recruiters. A lot of them are good because after a few years they know everyone in their industry. They know what they're doing, everything else. So how do we speed that up for people, and how do we allow that person to do that on a much, much larger scale? And by integrating to the entire communication layer over the last 5 years with all of the outreach stuff and the dialer and all of that kind of thing, we've been able to capture all that context. Yeah. The CRM and ATS module for us is just so many people, despite all of that stuff we were building, kept saying to us, you're still missing this bit though. I still don't have anywhere to manage my jobs. I still don't have anywhere to manage my jobs. So we've got loads of amazing CRM partners, about 70 of them. And we are like totally cool. If you want to still use those products, we are 100% behind that. We can be the second brain for Bullhorn or Vincere or JobAdder or Firefish or whoever it is, and we can plug in there, or Thrive or anyone. Or if you're like a small growing recruitment agency and you just want to have everything in one platform, which I think is where people feel they need to be right now from an AI perspective, then we can finally plug that gap for them as well.
Yeah. No,
did you eat the sweets at the party? Did you use the little sweet stand?
Of course I did, yeah.
I actually didn't get a chance to eat any of them, but many people told me those were very nice sweets.
They were very, very nice sweets, yeah. I think, so stupid. The little sliders that came out initially, I was so hungry, and I get so hangry, it's really embarrassing.
I also am in that camp.
Yeah, and I had like there was one waiter that kept on coming along. I was like, I know you want another one. I was like, yeah. And then you brought out like these burger sliders and stuff, and I was like, I've just full up on like the starters. I'm like, Mark, save that. Oh, nightmare. But no, that was really good.
Thanks, man.
So, not necessarily the transition to AI, but as we said before we started to record, I think 2026 is going to be the year that a lot of agencies, like, let's put it this way, pretty much every recruitment business I've spoken to in the last 2 months since talking about Milo have been saying, we're sat down with the board talking about our AI strategy. We're hiring a coach to come in to train us on AI. We're recruiting this business to help us with our business AI strategy. And I'm going, wow, a lot of businesses feel like if they don't adopt some form of AI, they're going to fall behind, which I totally get. I'm no expert on AI. I'm trying to upskill and learn as much as I possibly can because I know this is going to be the future.
Of course.
But one thing I have said to people is just be very mindful. And by the way, so many people on the podcast that are more intelligent on that subject than me have said a similar thing. Don't just buy something because it says AI to then, when you hire people in your business, go, oh, we use AI.
Yeah.
Let's not do that, because a lot of people are just spending so much money on tech. And you know what recruitment businesses are like? They're like, they'll sit down with their finance team and go, what's this tool? And it's like, I don't know, we've had it for 12 months. Do we use it? No. It's like, what? So I'm mindful that a lot of people that probably even listen to this right now are going, oh yeah, to be fair, I'm looking at taking AI on, but I'm not really sure what to do. So I'm curious to know from your perspective and the journey you've gone on with the AI implementations in SourceWhale, like, what are the non-negotiables for 2026? What are the nice to haves? Like, just tell me a little bit about what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, I'll talk to this from a perspective of being like we have over 100 people now at SourceWhale, and like super lucky for that. And obviously I lead a large proportion of that part of the business. I think about 70% of them sit within go-to-market, which is my responsibility in the company. And this is not just a recruitment problem, but recruitment seems to have this problem more than other industries, is that there is a real lack of process and structure and documented structure in companies, whether that's a 4-head business or a 400-head business. If you're going to bring an AI into your company, you need to be super certain on there's 3 Ps. There's people, there's process, and there's products. AI sits in the third part, which is products. Firstly, have I got processes in place? Do people in my business understand exactly what good looks like when it comes to business development? You know, I know I've gone into that in a lot more detail. Do I have the right people in the company? Am I happy with the quality of the people that I've got? And then finally, what products do I need to give these people to go out there and achieve these goals? I think selling in particular is something that recruitment as an industry struggles with. I've seen companies in 2025 who use our product, by the way, bought our product, and they've done a 20 times increase in the volume of outreach that they're doing. So they're doing 20 times more calls, more emails, more LinkedIn messages, everything else, and they haven't seen any difference in the results, right? So they've done 20 times more work, and a lot of that is obviously not taking them much more time because of the platform, but they're doing that and they still haven't got any better results. And I've also seen companies who have done something like that and they've got like 500 more meetings, and they can't tell if those meetings have actually made them any more money or not. And to me, that blows my mind, because that's not a technology issue, that's not a platform issue, that's not a SourceWhale problem, that's a business. If you're doing 20 times more outreach, you're not clear on what problems that you solve, who you solve those problems for, what your solution is, what questions you need to ask to understand if someone has that problem. And then secondly, if you do identify all of those things and you're then in a sales meeting with someone, if you're running 500 of them, and you don't have this is how to run an effective sales meeting to convert that into an opportunity, or you maybe have that, but you have no way of tracking if those things are happening or not, you can't improve it. So I think that as an industry, before we even talk about like getting AI or this type of technology, or buy SourceWhale, or buy this product or buy that product or anything else, or let's just use ChatGPT or any of that kind of thing, we need to have some sort of process in place, and we need to have some sort of structure in place around how we can measure that, how we can improve it, and how we can support our people to go through it as well. So that for me is a non-negotiable around AI, is actually, rather than sitting in a board meeting saying, well, this is how we become an AI company, let's bring an AI strategist in, let's do X, Y, and Z. It's like, are we actually super clear on what our process is right now? Because if I know what it is right now, I can create a vision of what I want it to be in the future as well. And I've got loads of thoughts on like where recruitment is in like 2030 in terms of like the AI piece. But that to me would be like our biggest advice. And as a recruiter on the desk, you can push your business leaders for this as well. You can be like, hey, like, I'll be honest, like, here's what I think we're at, here's the problems I think we solve, here's how I think we do it, do you agree? And you can kind of work together to get that in place.
I think that's a stellar point, mate, to be honest. Something that we did a lot at Projectus where I first met you is every quarter we'd sit down and have a company-wide meeting. It was called Innovation Day. Like nice. I think it was once a quarter or maybe once a year, I can't remember. But we would sit down and we'd have like 4 desks, and one would be around process, one would be about products, one would be about culture, etc. And you'd have sticky notes and you'd write down ideas in your group, move over to the next desk, and people would read your sticky notes and go, right, what else can I add on to that?
I love that, man. That's such a cool idea.
And it was great. And we developed some internal processes. We talked about things for culture, like what we're going to do for like events and stuff like that, and you know, like the retained offering, how do we make that better, and all the rest of it. But you know, you probably the same for you. We both speak to recruitment founders on a day-to-day basis. It stuns me at how many of these recruitment firms, when I sit down with them, and most of them, we want to sell the business in 5 years. I'm like, cool, what's your documented process? Show me how you go to market. Show me how you win your business. They're like, oh, everyone does it differently. I'm like, cool, I get everyone's got their own individual styles. Like my style will be different to yours, but do you have like a comprehensive way that you've documented, it's on your SharePoint, so when someone wants to buy your business, they can go, right, here's how X company does that.
But they've got to live and breathe it as well. So for me, a playbook is a live and breathing document. So I think most people get put off starting documenting things because they think they have to think of every eventuality. You don't. Your entire business's playbook can start by being 1 page. And it's like, here's right now where we're at. And then obviously at the end of the week, you review it and be like, oh, well, we actually did it this way instead of that way. And then it grows and grows and grows over time, and it becomes a live and breathing document. But to your point there of yeah, but everyone just does it in their own way. There still has to be a ground set of rules or a structure that people play in. You can take any sports analogy you want, whether it's a football team or an NFL team or anything like that. You couldn't just have 11 people walking out on a field or 15 or whatever it is, walking out onto a field and just doing their own thing. Each of them have their roles and each of them have their individual style. So it's like, a quarterback like Pat Mahomes might be different to like a Kirk Cousins or like whatever it might be, but they have to play within the rules of the game.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really important piece as well. By the way, I'm obviously pointing out the areas where people need to improve. I have actually also spoke to, whether it's a small lifestyle business owner, many of them this year who have absolutely nailed that down. They're super clear on who they are, what they do, who they do it for, what problems they solve and how they execute on that. And they're having a really, really good time. Now, it's not like, the land of milk and honey, but they have a really consistent way of generating revenue and they're having good results. And there's also some bigger companies as well, 50, 100 head companies. Some of them saying that they're back to like 2022 level billings, 2021 level billings, but with less people. And a lot of it's down to just finally having a structure and a process in place.
Yeah, 100%. So before we talk about what it's going to look like in 2030, a big topic is automation, potential sales agents, and using AI, not just your ChatGPT to write your LinkedIn post, which by the way is a pet peeve of mine. When I see it's a ChatGPT written post, in the bin.
That goes back to the authenticity point, right?
Yeah, 100%. Like I just on that very quickly, I very rarely use ChatGPT for my LinkedIn posts.
Totally.
Maybe I should sometimes because they can be a little bit wordy and whatnot. But if I'm a bit uncertain about it, or for my newsletter, I will put that through ChatGPT, check spelling mistakes, or if I'm struggling with an idea, if I've had a good conversation, I'm like, how do I make that a post? I'm like, give me an idea, give me the hook, give me the CTA, and then I write the rest of it. But anyway, that's my own thing. When it comes to the automation piece, now, the lady I had on my podcast a couple of weeks ago, so when this episode comes out, it will be last week's episode. She trialed a couple of AI sales agents and a load of things around automation. Her opinion was that if I was a candidate applying for a job and some AI agent called and said, hey, it's Dougie from SourceWhale, I'm his AI agent, you've applied to the job, wanted to give you a quick call, ask a couple of questions and we'll see if we can book you in. She was like, if I got that call, I just hang up, right? If that person was, I don't want to say low level, but like blue collar, like that you're applying to hundreds of jobs and stuff, and you're a recruiter that has 500 applications per role, I can understand it in that aspect. And on the automation piece, like I can understand that. I remember doing mass spec outs through Bullhorn back in the day. It was a fucking nightmare. It was long, right? So I get the idea of automation, but I have seen a lot of people rely too heavily on automation, and then there's no personal touch to it. So I'd be keen to get your thoughts on, I guess, where we're currently at now before we talk about 2030 around the automation piece, potential AI sales agents, and is the automation, the AI piece kind of taking away from like the human side of what we do?
Mate, great question. And I feel like this is a big one to unpack, right? Because I've got lots of thoughts on it. I think the first thing is that automation in the whole is a very, very good thing. I genuinely believe that. It goes back to the first point around processes and people. Once you have your processes nailed down, you can start to look at what parts of the process that you want to automate. I think automating as much of your internal process as possible is absolutely something that everyone should be focused on right now. So if I'm looking at if you're saying in 2026, what do we have to have nailed? I would say by the end of H1, you probably need to have as many of your internal processes automated as possible, because you need to free up more time for recruiters, to your point, to go out there and actually sell and have conversations. I think that the AI agent stuff in terms of actually live communication with clients and candidates, so when you think of these like calling softwares or whatever, where there's like an agent talking to people, I don't think they're as good right now as they need to be for that process to be really smooth. I also think that the women who you were talking to, and I've not heard the episode obviously, so maybe I'm lacking the context on it, but I think what she's saying is right, is that it's not the right time right now. However, if there became a mass movement in the industry towards that method, she would be unable predominantly to run her business without adopting that method, because it would give such a distinct advantage or disadvantage to her, where if that became the new norm, it would be super hard to not have that process in place because candidates are used to it. I think the other thing is that if that happens, then candidates won't really have a choice. Like that, and that's a sad thing to say, is that if there is mass adoption of like AI agent screening and all of that kind of thing, you don't really have the choice as a candidate in a really high unemployment market to not go through that process. You're kind of going to have to be forced to go through it. And maybe 2026, 2027, 2028 brings that. But I do also think that potentially in the future, candidates themselves may also have their own agent. So I had this business idea, where I think that actually, if you think of it, why should recruitment agencies be the only people that employ agents? Why would you as a candidate not have your own agent? And that agent's responsibility is to interview you, talk to you, is to then go out and source jobs out there on the internet, is to go and apply for those jobs on your behalf. And if that job is using an agent, is to then, based on everything it knows about you, speak to that agent and do through the screening. So that as a candidate and as a recruiter, we're only ever really talking to people when it's the right match and we're having that human conversation. So maybe that's the future as well. The companies who build the agents for the recruitment side may also then build it for the candidate side as well. But all of that being said, there will always be a place for a recruitment agency who focuses on that human touch. And I think the best example I can give you is the banking sector. You think of 20 years ago, if you wanted to do banking, you would go in branch. You would go into the branch and you would do all that stuff. There are less banking branches now, I think, than there's ever been in the UK. I don't know if it's the same for the US, but in the UK there is. And at one end of the spectrum, you've got Monzo. You can't speak to anyone at Monzo. You have an app. You can only chat to them through support. I use Monzo. Same. I think most people do. It is a super slick, really easy, online, automated, agentic experience. And that fits my lifestyle, and that's what I want. At the other end, in the middle end of the spectrum, you've got your traditional banks who are neither here nor there. They're not like Monzo yet, so they're not seen as cool and easy to use. They're still quite clunky, but they're reducing their banking branches and they're reducing the human element. So they're kind of stuck in the middle, and they probably are only doing well because they've got a lot of legacy customers. So you think of a Lloyd's Banking Group or something like that. And then the other end of the spectrum, the other side of it, you've got private banking, where people can call a number, someone answers that phone straight away. Typically wealthy clients. They go in, they have quarterly reviews, they do all of that kind of stuff, and they can do that thing. I think the Monzos of the world and the private banking clients of the world in the recruitment sense win. I think the company who's in the middle, who doesn't either adopt a slick AI automated experience, and who doesn't then or doesn't decide to invest fully in a human-based experience, is the one that kind of stuck in the middle, becomes a laggard and gets left behind. So I've spoken at you for 10 minutes there, but I can speak at you for another hour about how passionate I feel about all that stuff. So in summary of that massive rant, is like, I think as a recruitment agency, you just need to decide where in that spectrum are you going to sit. Because I think sitting in the middle and being indecisive means that you'll likely lose over the long term. Maybe not in the short term, maybe not 2026, maybe not even 2027, maybe 28, 30, whatever. I think if you're still sitting in the middle, you're probably going to be stuck.
Well, I think the one of the biggest takeaways from your little rant there, which I love, by the way, I love the passionate rants. Exactly what Sarah, who came on the podcast, said. She said that the reason why she was not against it, but for now she was because the technology wasn't there. And I've trialed some of these. Obviously, we're trying to build an L&D tool using AI, and some of the tech out there is a little bit clunky right now. So if you've got someone calling up and it sounds super robotic and stuff, like, it can put candidates off, right? Totally so I totally get that. The thing that popped into my head while I laughed was the thought in years to come when we're on social media and we see someone's candidate AI speaking to a recruiter AI, and then they end up speaking in like AI gibberish. It just made me laugh in my head. But no, I can certainly see that. I think definitely in the future, I can see that being a big use to recruitment agencies. I think it's a bit of a no-brainer. What a lot of recruiters get scared about, and a lot of just general people in general public, of like, oh, it's removing jobs and stuff. I had a conversation with my business partner about this, and he gets a little bit jarred when people say, you know, it's not going to take jobs. You know, there's the human side of recruitment. And he was like, it's gonna take away some jobs. Totally. And I was like, I totally get that, but if we look through, and I'm not no historian, but if we look through every revolution that's happened, the Industrial Revolution, whatever it might be, like, there's still going to be things there. I think my big thing, and I think it was Mark that came on the podcast, said that you can't automate your way to £1 million desk, and the relationship building aspect. And I mean, fucking who knows, in 10 years time, the AI might be just as good at building rapport, right? But I genuinely think that in a perfect world, in 5-10 years time, if I've got 20 good applicants on my 100 people applicant advert, if I've got AI that's done my LinkedIn search for me, gone through my CRM and put people in front and has done the pre-screen for me of like asking a handful of questions to make sure that they're worth my time, then realistically, as a recruiter in an ideal world, you're coming in every day and all you need to do is open up your calendar and go, right, I'm speaking to Dougie at this time, Charles at that time, Jimmy and Timmy at that time. And that's what you're doing. You're only speaking to relevant candidates and clients.
And I think that's the very near term. I think that's in the next 12 to 18 months that happens, and I think that will be whole hog. I think I think Mark, you said, was talking about the £1 billion billers. You can't automate your way there. I think there will be less recruiters in the next 5 years. I think there'll be more £1 million billers though. And I think a lot of that will be recruiters managing agents essentially. So to your point, I have an agent who does this part for me, I have an agent who does that part for me, and I'm really only a lot of the time being the salesperson. So really kind of like a technology company, I'm going in, I'm working with a client, I'm understanding their problems, I'm proposing a solution, and my delivery of that solution is able to be done at scale through the use of agentic stuff. I think as well, the adoption of it will become much more wide scale because we'll do a lot more general purpose agents in like people's normal day-to-day life. So if you think of like right now, this morning before I came in here, I had to make an orthodontist appointment for my daughter, I had to follow up with a dentist for myself, my wife had a doctor's appointment next week, I had to talk to a lawyer about something, so there's all these things that we're trying to organise, and I was spending an hour this morning going through all of that stuff, and if I see a very near-term future where actually a lot of that is just done by an agent. So you speak to the agent, you tell them the details, they'll go away, they have access to your calendar, they'll book all that stuff on your behalf. And I think that's a net positive thing for the world. Like, have you tried to get a doctor's appointment? Like that calling at 8 AM battle is just insane.
I just don't bother.
I
just don't bother.
You're just falling apart, but you're getting
my wife literally the other day, I was downstairs and like, I don't know if you've noticed, but like so many of my friends go, why are you so like jittery? My shoulder's fucked, right? It's always, I'm constantly like that, it's always in pain. Rosie's like, go to the doctor. I'm like, no. She's like, why not? I'm like, I just can't be asked.
It's mad.
I just can't be asked. Even if I'm like, I don't get ill anymore, but like the last time I was ill, I had a chest infection. You have to have antibiotics. I left it 4 weeks. I just left it 4 weeks.
That's bad news.
It's terrible. And my wife was like, you're not getting better. Call the doctors. Like, I just can't. I hate it. And like my whole journey with the ADHD medication, dude, it was the worst. It was the fucking worst. Calling them up in the morning, do you have the medication? You don't. Having to call through every other fucking pharmacy in Hertfordshire, figuring out who's got this drug. There's a national shortage, this, that, and the other.
That's mad.
And now it's just literally, I've gone in there. I've found this wicked pharmacy around like 20-minute drive from my house. And they've just all automated it. So literally,
that's it. And that's it. And it's the little changes like that, the incremental changes to people's lives that will get better. And I know there's a worry about like what does that mean to your point of the industrial revolution and other jobs came. I think there's two outcomes here. One is that like as a human race, the reason that we've developed things like AI and electricity and all of these types of things, the internet, and if you think of how long it took us to get to electricity and then what's happened in the 150 years since then, like the rate of growth is insane, right? But as a society and as a human race, we've always got this thing of bettering. Like we always want betterment and for things to become better. So I think that's what creates new jobs. So yes, there might be high unemployment for a period. You know, our drive and need to improve things will create other jobs in other industries and other societies, and will continue to grow. Or alternatively, maybe for some reason AI truly is the end of that for the human race. For what reason? And really, I think the problem is that a lot of people are doing this for money. So a universal basic income is probably going to be the thing that would then be put in place at that point, because there's no point in having all this software if people can't make money from it. And I think that's the reality of it as well. So the universal basic income thing I think is less likely. But I think that the first one is more likely, like you said.
I mean, I can't remember who it was that told me this the other day. I think it might have been Saeed Bohr. He said that there was like this, not revolution, but like a wave of graduates that studied computer sciences and learnt to be developers, software engineers, and like some of these guys are earning six figures, like crazy money. And now they're working on AI products and they're working on these AI agents that are essentially just making their roles obsolete. Now you've got another wave of prompt engineers that are coming in to create AI that are essentially going to make them redundant because the AI will be the prompt engineer.
So a lot of those guys that were doing that first wave came back to do the second wave, right? And that's the thing. So it's just like the skill set is changing over time. But it's like anything, like selling went from being in person to online through Zoom and all of that kind of stuff. And like there's just the way in which we execute changes, but the outcome that people are looking for is always the same. And I think capitalism is a major driver for a lot of this stuff. it amazes me still that we're spending a lot of our time and effort on like B2B AI solutions versus where's the agent that books my doctor's appointments, man? You know, that's what I'm up for. I think you build that, £5 a month, most people are paying for that, you know?
100%.
Your hairdresser's appointments, your doctor's appointments, 100%. All that stuff's all taken care of for you. And I'm up for that much more than I am for a robot to come in and wash my dishes, because I think the dishwasher's good enough. I don't think I need a robot to take them from the side of the tray and put them into the dishwasher. I'd rather the appointment one.
100%, yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man. I think, you know, in the future, the whole B2B thing could be a thing. But then if we think about what's happened, like when we started, you talked about COVID, right?
Yep.
I remember... I still get PTSD from Teams, by the way. Whenever someone invites me to a Teams meeting, I'm like, can we just do Zoom?
Yeah, Teams is painful for me too. I'm not a huge fan of it.
I'm just, I just Teams quizzes during lockdown makes me angry. But anyway.
I think I've done a quiz in a long time.
Actually. I hated it. But yeah, I remember like going on LinkedIn and so many people saying, the office is dead, in person is dead, you can do it, it's so much easier to do it online. And then when we started to gradually come out of lockdown and people started to go and meet candidates and clients and whatnot in person, and people were like, oh my fucking God, I forgot what it's like to shake someone's hand, smell 100%. Their aftershave, have a coffee together, go for a Nando's, whatever. Like, that has come back now. And like when I started the podcast, I said to everyone, I'm going to start it remote purely because cost, ease, doesn't matter. I don't have to get them to travel to me or 100%. Travel to them when I've not even done an episode yet. Let's just do it remote to begin with. And then I'll go on the road, or I'll invite people to my house or book a studio or whatever. And I remember the first few guests were like, dude, like I prefer doing these in person. I was like, yeah, mate, so do I. But let me just get 10 to 30 episodes done so that I can get into that echelon of consistency, and then we'll start doing them face-to-face.
You're proving the concept, right? And I think that's definitely the key thing. I'm with you. Like, I mean, you see it today. You're in our office today. This is the third office move we've done in 12 months in terms of because of the company's growing so fast. But actually, it's not just about the company growing quickly. It's about the fact that more and more people are organically coming to the office. Yeah. So each time people are coming in, they're coming in more often. We're not telling them to. They just want to be around people. I mean, I travel to London 2 days a week every week. It would be easier to not do that, but I believe in that, and I've done that pre-COVID, I've done that post-COVID, and you know, I think it's a huge point for sure. 100%.
Yeah. I was going to say something to you a second ago. When it comes to the things that AI won't replace, right? And I want to be mindful saying this without being one of those AI denying type characters, of course, right? Because we talked about like the B2B sales agents, we talked about automation and things like that. I think that in recruitment, my opinion, things like what we're doing now, like podcasts and stuff, because I'm sure you've heard online like people put in like a 50 Cent song and put like a 1950s twist on it and stuff like that.
That'd be some of the best music you can get. I'm not kidding. I think it's the novelty of hearing a 50 Cent song sang in the styles of like 60s jazz or 100%.
And I heard someone the other day saying that what's going to happen when AI trains itself and then creates music, and I think it was Joe Rogan that said like, a lot of people listen to music, and especially if it's got lyrics, right? I only listen to drum and bass, so there's barely any lyrics. But the lyrics, people want to listen to someone's authentic story. Like if you listen to 50 Cent songs about how he got shot and things like that. So the AI doesn't have that experience. So will someone want to listen to that? You can go, I can't remember the website. There's a website you can go on and you can say, I want to hear about AI, but I want it to sound like Joe Rogan, Tom Segura, Dougie and Charles. And it will literally be all four of us in a room talking about AI. But it is just compiling pre-existing things that have happened, and they're not telling stories about meeting you pissed the first time years ago and things like that.
The thing is as well, man, is like, I just don't think people will buy into that. Like, I don't think they'll buy into it. I also think that the challenge is that people's opinions change over time. So how I feel about AI now is based upon the available information that I have right now. In 2 years' time or in a year's time, my opinion may change, and that's because of that. So maybe it gets to the point where you can go and listen to all the old podcasts that I've done and then compile them and pull them together. But it's not a live, true reflection of my opinion at that point in time. And I think things that won't be replaced, I do genuinely believe are recruitment is a sales game. It's always been a sales game. It will always be a sales game. And I think that the most important thing that recruitment won't be replaced in recruitment, is the actual selling. So, you know, speaking to clients, meeting with clients, understanding their problems. I just don't see the phase where a company looking to hire is going to go on and answer a list of questions on a website, hit enter, and then just be kind of showered with the things at the end. There's a lot of more nuance to that. So I really think, like, if you're in recruitment and you see it as a long-term game, you should be investing in your sales ability and your sales skills. And I do genuinely believe that there's more people could be £1 million billers as a result of that.
Yeah, 100%. I think I might have told this story on the podcast before, but I remember the last retainer I sold just before we went into COVID was February 2020. It's absolutely hilarious. They pulled my leg, right?
Yeah.
Like, we'd done the pitch, they loved it. We had a cheese and wine night in WeWork, so we went downstairs, had some cheese, had some wine, and then they said, let's go back upstairs to talk about the deal. And they brought my MD up with me, Tim, and we had, you know, those wheels in the sales office.
Yeah.
There was like, pick 3 colours, we'll pick 3 colours. If it lands on our colour, we'll work with someone else. If it lands on your colour, we'll go with you. I thought they were being serious, so I spun the wheel, landed on my colour, like that. And they were like, we were obviously going to go with you. We just wanted to see a reaction. I was like, brilliant.
That is excellent, though.
Brilliant. So went downstairs and they were like, what cool bars are there to go in London? And this is my naive brain. I'm not like most recruiters. Most recruiters are like, yeah, I'll take you out. We'll go out on the sesh. Yeah. I was like, I've got Thai boxing in the morning. And they were like, don't be you're coming out with us. And we had a glass of wine and went outside, and one of the directors doesn't smoke, but he brings a pack of cigarettes out for client meetings so that when he has a drink, he shares a cigarette with people that he's going to do business with. I was like, weird. And he said to me, like, pretty much every deal I've had with because they sell to orthopedic doctors, surgical consultants and whatnot. He said, I have a beer, have a cigarette, and it's that face to face, and we just don't talk business. We just talk about our marriage, we talk about kids, we talk about this. And it was like, that for me, mate, I don't think, and this is before the whole topic of AI, it's like, that's the key, is if you can get like that relationship aside from business and understand like what's going on at home, like, what's going on in your life. Like you said, you're doing Thai boxing, how long have you been doing that for? I'm going to want to work with you because I know you and I'm bought into you. And I think, mate, a lot of people that are post-COVID recruiters forget that aspect. They forget the aspect of just that human to human connection.
I think you're spot on. I really do. And I think that for us at SourceWhale, we recognise that heavily. And I recognise that. And, you know, when we look at the platform that we're building, the platform that we have built, it's all around focused on making sure that people have more of those conversations. Yeah. And we do that through giving them, you know, insights on who they should be speaking to, etc., helping them reach out to them. But more importantly, we do it by wiping out all of that pointless admin that they're doing every single day. And then also a lot of the valuable admin that they do as well, but that can just be done differently. So, you know, for me, looking ahead to next year, if you're a recruitment agency who believes in recruitment being a sales game, who believes in some of the stuff that you've said there around like meeting people face to face and the impact that can have, a metric that you should maybe be looking at in your business is what's the total number of hours of selling time that we are giving to our consultants every week? And how do we as a business improve the total number of hours of selling time that our recruiters have? Because I think if you can go right now and say, realistically, our team only have 10 hours of selling time per week, and that's the majority, that's what their job actually is, you're probably going to be in a tough spot. How do we get that to 15, 20, 25, 30, whatever it might be, and move it on from there? Because as not as a recruitment business, as a technology business, we talk about that a lot in our sales team. Yeah. So like, you know, how long do our SDRs, our account executives, our customer success managers, or account managers actually have per week to actually be on the phones or in person or on Zooms, whatever it is, with our clients or with our prospective clients, and we're super obsessed with reducing that down, and I think it'll make a huge impact to a lot of people.
Awesome, man. Well, look, just before we wrap up, to besides the last question, there's one thing I wanted to ask you. You mentioned about having like, I don't know if you've got your own like agents, like AI agents, but quite a few of my recent guests on the podcast have talked through like bots that they have running in the background, some for like writing articles, some for like sourcing, whatever it is. Obviously with what I'm doing with Milo, and I'm going to be building the sales strategy, the marketing strategy and stuff like that. And for what I do now to the consulting stuff, I'm still quite new to like understanding how to build my own agents or like, I always sit there and think to myself and I'm like scratching my head because I know there's like an easier way to kind of automate some of these things. But before we kind of wrap up with the last question, if you don't mind, just tell people kind of a little bit about what you're doing with that.
Yeah, totally. So we obviously have a lot of the external agentic workflows that we have that our clients use, and a lot of that's done on their behalf. So what we don't do is go in and say, you tell us what you'd like it to do, etc. We've already looked at the most common process, and then we've built that all out for them so that can be used at scale. Internally though, our co-founder Harry, who's now our Chief Innovation Officer, moved over to that role from being our CTO, and we promoted one of our team, Tom, to CTO recently. Harry spends a lot of his time innovating internally in the business. So we actually have the SourceWhale agent, which is something that he's built completely from scratch on his own, and it does a huge range of things. So you think of a business of our size, we want to talk to our development team a lot about what does this do, what does that do, what does this mean, how is it written. You actually just speak to the agent on Slack, and that agent has access to our code base, it has access to Slack, our emails, all of the context and content internally, and it means that anyone in the business can query things without having to go and speak to a developer to get that information. But what it also does is it analyzes all of our support queries. So you can imagine how many customers we have, how many inquiries and conversations we have every month. And what it does is it goes in there and it can proactively tell someone like, hey, your customer's asked you this question, here's some context in terms of how you were able to answer it. If that's something that's actually the agent figures out is not in our help articles, it'll then analyse all the help articles, say they asked this because it wasn't there. I've written a new help article, click here to publish it and put it up onto the base as well. So a lot of that stuff, again, going back to how many hours of selling time do our team have every week, like that's probably been the biggest thing for us that's had a big impact. And it's probably not the sexiest thing to think of because it's not client facing and helping you do loads more sales directly, but it is freeing up the time to do the stuff that we know is effective when it comes to talk to clients.
Yeah, that's sick. What about for like recruiters, solo founders, small businesses that are interested in building like agents and stuff when it comes to the outbound sales stuff? Like, is there anything that you guys use that's not necessarily just SourceWhale, but like external sort of agents that can help recruiters, business owners when it comes to like, I don't know, just helping with their sales?
Yeah, I honestly think like if you're going to build an agent right now, directly as a recruitment agency, it's probably a waste of your time. I think the time, cost and effort to do that is probably low, considering that there's companies like SourceWhale or there's other businesses who you can work with who you can pay a small amount of money to every month and they've already pre-built that for you. And then you go in and you're getting things like the hiring managers that you want to reach out to and the people that you should be putting in front of those hiring managers and a mechanism to then go and deliver that and everything else. I've never really truly understood this idea of a recruitment agency who wants to try and build something like that on their own, especially if you're using a lot of things like Lovable or Replit or anything else. It's cool to play around with, but you need to actually maintain it. And there's a reason why software exists and why there's software providers. So I'm not saying that because I've got a vested interest in people buying SourceWhale. I do genuinely believe that people should be invested. An example would be we have the SourceWhale agent, and that's doing a lot of our internal kind of admin work for us. We obviously have the infrastructure to support that as a software company, but we still spend money every month on a product called Fin that comes from Intercom. And what that does is deals with all of our first line support queries. So actually around 72% of inquiries that come into SourceWhale are actually never dealt with by a human being. That Fin, this agent, which has been built by Intercom, is able to answer those accurately. The other 28% is the stuff that hits the humans, where they're then doing second, third line support, and that's where the SourceWhale agent then comes in and assists them with it. Even as a software company that's building their own agents, we're still spending money externally on other people's as well. Yeah,
fair. It's a good point you mentioned there, because when I went to a AI and recruitment networking event a few weeks ago, and when I told them the idea of Milo, some guy said, I've built something similar, let me show you. And he built it in ChatGPT. And when he showed it to me, I was like, right, okay, that just seems like a lot of steps. So you've got to go through your VoIP system, download the transcript, put the transcript in there, kind of read through it to make sure that it's not got the bits that you don't want in it or whatever. And then you've got to self-prompt per person to go through the transcript to say like what's been said, and it doesn't do anything around tonality and stuff. And when he was showing it, it was like, I kind of built this myself, but we're thinking of maybe going external. I was like, it just seemed like what your point there about if you've got a software company that does that for a decent price, like it's a no-brainer.
How much time has he spent on that, or she spent on that, right? A lot of time. And like, how much would that have cost him? If it was a couple £100 a month? Like, that's the thing. It's like, it's time versus reward. I honestly think that I get it. People need to be running efficient businesses, and they should be absolutely doing that. But I do think that they shouldn't do it at the detriment of just understanding that there's simple solutions out there that they can buy. Now, the biggest example I saw recently was Lovable, which is the AI kind of agent that got crazy valuations and things recently because it empowered people to create their own products. I've seen that since the summer, their volume of usage daily has dropped dramatically. And it's down to that. It's people were hyped up on it. All their mates were talking about it. They went in, they used it. They're like, this is great, this is great. But then how do you actually turn it into something real? And how do you turn it into something that people can use post that? It's not easy.
Yeah.
So there's a reason why there's still many developers out there.
Yeah.
They're still kind of needed.
Yeah, 100%. Awesome, dude. Well, look, really appreciate your time today.
No, man,
really enjoyed this conversation.
Thanks for having me.
As you probably know, my last question that I finish every episode off with is, following today's episode, how can people get 1% better in recruitment?
Definitely. I think invest in yourself. I think go look into next year and be super clear in the problems that you're solving for people, how you solve that, and document, even if you're just an individual consultant on a desk, document your one-page process that you're going to work on. Because I believe that once you have a process in place, once you have it documented, and once you execute on it, you can measure how it's going. And if you're measuring it, then you can always improve it. And whether that process has AI or not, it'll come throughout the year. So yeah, that would be my best advice for that.
Love it. Awesome, man. Cool. Well, for people that made it this far, thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next week. And also, I'm here today with Dougie at SourceWhale. So if you are interested, just mention my name or the podcast, and get in touch with these guys. Awesome.
Thanks, man.
Cheers.
Thank you so much for watching this week's episode. I hope you've enjoyed. As I've said before, if you are not subscribing and following on whatever platform it is that you're listening or watching this podcast on, please go and do that. It really, really helps the show. I've got a monthly newsletter that gives you a roundup of every single episode. We're securing sponsorship to grow the podcast, to make it better. For people that have been listening or watching to this podcast from the early days, you would have seen a natural progression in terms of the production quality, a lot more face-to-face interviews, etc. So we're only going to get better. We're planning on doing events. We're planning on having some incredible people on. So do us a favor, like, comment, subscribe, all those types of good things, and reach out to me. Let me know what your best episode is. Let me know who you'd want to see on the podcast. And if you are also interested yourself, I've always got space for cool people that want to share things that they're really, really passionate about. So here's to getting 1% better. Here's to elevating the recruitment industry. And I'll see you next week.